The night my wife told me I would never be good enough, something inside me broke. 4 months, she had been obsessed with one thing: my promotion. She talked about it constantly, already spending the money in her mind before I had even received it. When the company announced that someone else had been selected, I was disappointed but determined to keep working hard. I thought my wife, Emily, would support me through it. Instead, she stared at me across the dinner table with cold eyes and said, "Maybe if you were more ambitious, this wouldn't have happened." Those words hurt more than losing the promotion itself, and I had no idea things were about to get much worse. Over the next few weeks, Emily became a different person. She criticized everything I did. The way I dressed, the car I drove, even the food I bought became targets for her frustration. She compared me to successful men she saw online and constantly reminded me of my failure. I tried to save our marriage. I worked longer hours, helped more around the house, and did everything possible to make her happy. Nothing worked. One evening, she casually mentioned a wealthy businessman named Ryan she had met through a friend. The way she smiled when she spoke about him made my stomach twist, but I ignored the warning signs because I trusted my wife. That trust shattered one Friday night. Emily claimed she was having dinner with friends, but something felt wrong. Around midnight, a mutual friend called me accidentally, thinking I already knew the truth. Within minutes, I learned that Emily had been spending time with Ryan for weeks. My hands shook as I drove to a luxury restaurant downtown. Through the window, I saw them together. They weren't acting like friends. They were holding hands and laughing while she looked at him the way she used to look at me. At that moment, the last pieces of my marriage collapsed right in front of my eyes. When Emily finally came home, I confronted her. Instead of denying it, she simply sighed and sat down. Then she said something I will never forget. "Ryan is successful. He has ambition. He knows what he wants. I'm tired of settling." I stared at her in disbelief. 15 years together, and that was her explanation. She admitted she had been seeing him and said she deserved a better life. Then she looked directly at me and said, "You'll never be good enough for the future I want." Hearing those words felt like being punched in the chest. By morning, I had already called a lawyer. The divorce was brutal. Emily moved out and immediately began showing off her new relationship online. Every week there were photos of expensive restaurants, luxury hotels, and designer gifts. Friends sent me screenshots, thinking I should know. I stopped looking. The pain was already unbearable. Losing my wife was difficult, but losing the future I thought we would share was even harder. 4 months, I lived alone in a small apartment, struggling with loneliness and self-doubt. There were nights when I questioned everything about myself. Maybe she was right. Maybe I would never be enough. Those thoughts haunted me every day. One morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and realized I had two choices. I could spend the rest of my life feeling sorry for myself, or I could rebuild. That day became the turning point. I started exercising before work. I took professional courses at night. I learned new skills and volunteered for difficult projects at the office. Progress was slow, but every small victory gave me confidence. The anger I felt toward Emily became fuel. Instead of chasing revenge, I focused on becoming the best version of myself. For the first time in years, my happiness depended on me instead of someone else. Months passed, and my hard work began paying off. The company noticed my dedication. I was assigned to major projects and trusted with more responsibility. Eventually, another leadership position opened. This time, I earned it. The promotion came with a substantial raise and opportunities one had never imagined. More importantly, I finally understood that my value had never depended on a job title. The confidence I had rebuilt came from surviving the darkest period of my life. While Emily had left because she believed success defined a person, I had learned that character mattered far more than status. Around the same time, I heard rumors about Emily and Ryan. Their glamorous social media posts had suddenly stopped. At first, I ignored the gossip. Then mutual friends began telling me pieces of the story. Ryan had serious financial problems hidden beneath his expensive lifestyle. Many of the luxury purchases Emily bragged about were funded by debt. Several business deals failed, and creditors started demanding payment. The image of success that had attracted Emily turned out to be an illusion. The man she believed was her ticket to a better life was struggling to keep his world from collapsing around him. As Ryan's problems grew worse, so did Emily's situation. She had left a stable marriage for a fantasy, and now that fantasy was falling apart. Friends told me they argued constantly. The expensive trips disappeared. The luxury apartment was gone. Ryan became distant and angry as pressure mounted. Eventually, he left her entirely. One day, he simply packed his belongings and walked away, leaving behind unpaid bills and broken promises. For the first time, Emily experienced the same abandonment she had forced me to endure. Yet despite everything, I felt no satisfaction. I simply continued moving forward. Nearly a year after our divorce, I was leaving work when I saw someone waiting near my car. At first, I didn't recognize her. She looked exhausted, thinner than before, and carried none of the confidence she once displayed. Then she turned around. It was Emily. Tears immediately filled her eyes. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered my name. The woman who once told me I would never be good enough now stood in front of me looking completely defeated. Seeing her there felt surreal, like encountering a ghost from a life I no longer lived. Emily asked if we could talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We sat at a nearby cafe, and she began crying almost immediately. She admitted Ryan had lied about nearly everything. His wealth, his success, even many of his business accomplishments had been exaggerated. Then she apologized for how she had treated me. She confessed that chasing status and appearances had blinded her to what truly mattered. I made the biggest mistake of my life, she said through tears. I threw away the one person who genuinely loved me. For the first time, she seemed to understand the damage she had caused. Then came the question I had expected from the moment I saw her. Emily asked if there was any chance we could start over. She said she missed our life together and wished she could undo everything. Months earlier, hearing those words would have meant everything to me. But now, they felt strangely empty. The man sitting across from her was not the same man she had abandoned. The pain she caused had transformed me. I looked at her quietly and realized I no longer wanted the future we once planned. I had already built a new one without her. I thanked Emily for her apology because it was sincere. Then I told her something she needed to hear. You didn't leave because I wasn't good enough. You left because you couldn't see my worth. Tears streamed down her face as she listened. I explained that forgiveness and reconciliation were not the same thing. I forgave her long ago for my own peace, but I could never trust her again. After a long silence, I stood up and wished her well. As I walked away, I felt no anger, no bitterness, and no regret. The woman who once believed I would never be enough had finally realized my value, but by then, I had already learned it myself.